This is TWiT.
Yeah, so big news out of the Google Play Store as Google is taking a page out of Apple's book. Google's actually making changes to the review process for apps and all app updates in the Play Store. So now all applications and app updates now are subjected to a review before publishing occurs. This process could take days. And it's more than likely that established high-profile, high-traffic developers will likely get a fast track. But even then, there's no way to expedite it for regular developers or even those high-profile developers. Devs won't know about the days-long review process until they actually try to publish something. So when you try to plan a release of an app, that becomes more difficult. And timing a release requires a workaround process which can wreak havoc on promotional campaigns and make it even harder to manage your marketing and all that fun stuff. And this is coming off of Google addressing their dedication to cutting down on bad apps in the Play Store, as well as being more clear on major Play Store policy changes. And this is major because previously the Google Play Store handled this through algorithmically, where you submitted an app and it went through and it did an automatic check, and you were able to publish apps much faster. And then they had a review process if apps got flagged. But this is a lot like the Apple App Store, which, if anybody's ever worked in mobile development, when you submit an app to Apple, it goes to a physical person, and you're at the mercy of that person. And it can take days to be reviewed. You can get stuck in the queue. I've worked on projects where an app that was previously approved and then submitted gets rejected, not for the change in an update, but for something that's been in the app all along, just because a different set of eyes looked at it. So hopefully Hopefully Google's taking a lesson from the frustration developers have had for years with Apple and make this a little more streamlined process. But whenever you introduce people into the mix, it's going to take longer and it's going to get more complicated. Guys, what do you think of this change? Do you think that all the malware has finally forced Google's hand and they need to do this?
I mean, I don't imagine that Google is going to have a human review every single flippin' app that goes through there.
So it sounds like.
Well, I think it's still unclear whether humans are going to look at all of them or whether humans are going to look at the hot kind of like flagged things that maybe a bot review is going to happen first and then humans go in. Humans, as if, I don't know, this sounds weird to me for whatever reason, but a human being would then review the things that kind of come back flagged by the bot. In reading kind of the posts about this, it was hard to discern whether this was going to be like 100% of apps all reviewed by humans or whether it's going to be just the things that come back with a trigger of some sort.
I took away that it's people. I took away that this is moving to a manual process. And maybe I'm reading into it based on what I know what Apple does and stuff like that. Yeah. But a review process to me means someone reviews it.
Yeah. Well.
So I don't know.
What do you think? You're
you could see the gears turning in my head because I'm just thinking about like the beginning of being an Android user and how it was such a wild west back when it was the Android marketplace. And it was such a wild west. And I remember back then I was covering Apple, and I remember that was it was frustrating for some developers to have to wait for Apple to do the approval process, but ultimately Apple has ended up better for it in the long run because their stuff is supremely vetted versus we've had a lot of stumbles in the Android world over the past couple of years, which has caused Google to do a lot of PR fixing and a lot of let's devote time at our keynotes talking about our security and what we're doing, and it just looks like they're just saying we can't do the automated process anymore of just having an algorithm, let's say, go in and verify this. We need to have actual people going in and using the apps and verifying the code and ensuring that there's nothing hidden in there. It's gonna annoy companies and developers who want to get an app out there. Also I already know, like, I wonder what the press releases are going to be like now because they can't be planned on a certain release date as they used to be. But what do they do on iOS then? Because if there's a human process and you can't pinpoint
I mean, developers
they say
there
it
are
should
planning,
be out
right?
sometime this week or something. Like they'll give you like an estimated time of arrival. But to be honest, I feel like that's still the same in Android because it's even when updates push through, it's never for everybody at the same time.
Yeah.
So I just think ultimately this is the beginning of a very new direction for Google that we have to start accepting, because in order for them to continue reigning supreme, I mean,
reigning supreme,
got to be able to wrangle in all those bad actors.